Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining this course, Foundational Course 6 on the Diamond Cutter Sutra. Um, One of the 5 courses that is required to join any one of the houses, the new houses um, that Asian Classics Institute is, and all of us are pulling together. So this course is one of the most important courses for us in our spiritual journey. And it's a real honor for me to pass it along to you. Uh, and I really appreciate the opportunity to do so. And I'm very appreciative of your interest in the course and in the material and in all of these teachings. So before we do our prayers that we do before class, let's take a moment and set our motivation as clearly as possible, as most heartfelt as possible. So take a moment. And think about what brought you here to this class, this course on the Diamond Cutter Sutra. What do you hope to be able to do with the content that you learn in this course? So, with that motivation clearly in our hearts, uh, let's recite the, the prayers before teaching. Sashi Buki Jukshin Metok Tram Rirag Lingshin Yinde Gempadi Sange Shingdu Mikte Owargi Drokun Namdak Shingla Chuparso. Idam Guru Ratna Mandalakam Niryatayami. Sangye Churan Suki Chuknam La Changchu Bardu Dakni Kyapsu Chi Daki Chushe Kipe Sunam Ki Drola Penshir Sangye Duparsho Sangye Chiran Soki Chukdam La Changchu Partu Dakni Kapsuchi Daki Chishe Gipe Sunam Ki Drola Penchir Sangye Chuparsho Sangye Chiran Soki Chuknam La Changchu Pardu Dakni Kyapsuchi Daki Chishe Gipe Sunam Ki Drola Benchir Sangye Juparso. So if you haven't taken classes with me before, what I like to do is pass along the teachings as they've been passed on to me. And so I use a lot of the Tibetan language in these courses. And I've put together documents for you that have as much of the Tibetan that was used in passing along these teachings that I'm able to figure out, to find the spelling of. So you will find these documents in online once they're posted. And my intent in doing so is that to do my small part to support the Tibetan language continuing on in this world. And the reason I find that so important is that if we look at the collection of the teachings of the Buddha that exist on this planet, the most comprehensive collection of these teachings exists in the Tibetan language. There is much that exists in the Tibetan language that does not exist in any other language yet, that has not yet been translated into languages that are more commonly in use around the planet. And so it's very important to learn the language. And so my use of the language, I'm not requiring or forcing, rather encouraging you to take an interest in hearing these Tibetan words, in speaking these Tibetan words so that you hear yourself speaking these words, so that they become a part of you over time, the more that you hear them. And Geshe Michael has described this language as, Sanskrit is a very, Sanskrit is the language in which the Buddha taught, right? And Sanskrit has a profound connection with the inner body of our inner bodies. The sounds exist in places in our inner bodies. And they say that once we become enlightened, that we will speak this language, that we are speaking in the sounds of our inner body. As for the Tibetan language, it is as if it came from the heavens down to this planet. It doesn't have like deep connections to other languages that exist on this planet. So, where did it come from? Geshe Michael says that it came from the angels. So it's a special language for that reason too. So don't feel nervous about the Tibetan. If you want, you can do the homework and quizzes in both English and Tibetan. You can try if you want. But please do, when I ask you to repeat a word, please do repeat. Please do hear yourself speaking this language and think about that you're planting the seeds for understanding the teaching. Okay? Okay. That's the weird thing about me. Well, there are many weird things about me, but you will come to find them over time. So first, I'll go through an overview of the course briefly. In the first class, this class today, we are going to cover where this book came from, this sutra, as well as the commentaries that we'll be using to understand the sutra. Who wrote them, when. We're going to talk about what the title Diamond Cutter means, and under which the circumstances that the Buddha taught or gave these teachings. In the second class, this is, well, they're all pretty important, but the second class, it contains a key, super important, especially coming off the last course that I taught, which was about how karma works. So in class 2, we're going to talk about how emptiness relates to bodhicitta. And so why do I say that's related to course 5, which is on karma? Because bodhicitta is it's a wish. So it's not mental, it's not physical, but it's a wish. And those who have this wish, they do certain activities, which we will talk a little bit about. That's more in later courses. But those activities, those are karma. Those are karma. Well, as well as movement of the mind is karma, for those of you who remember. So we're with this course, I think we're starting to see just how related these concepts that the Buddha taught, while they first seem like, oh, we're going to talk about emptiness, or oh, we're going to talk about the bodhisattva path, or oh, we're going to talk about renunciation, we start to see how related they are, how intertwined they are. It starts to gel for us, which is, I don't know about you, but that's pretty exciting. How you can use these teachings together. Okay, in class 3, next week from today, we'll talk about emptiness and the bodies of Buddha. So when you become fully enlightened, they talk about an enlightened being's body in 4 aspects. Well, some say 3, some say 2, but it's all the most, shall we say, granular view is 4 different bodies. And we'll talk about those bodies and how emptiness relates to those bodies. In the 4th class, we'll talk about, we're following the order of the content within the sutra right now. This course, these classes follow that order. So after the Buddha talks about the relationship between emptiness and the Buddha's bodies, he talks about the future of his teachings on this planet. So we'll be covering that. And then in class 5, we'll talk about more specifically about how emptiness and karma are related. That there is a mistaken idea, and actually it's one that can easily come to us as students, that the more we focus on emptiness, especially the higher views of emptiness, the more we can think that what we do doesn't matter because everything is empty. And that's a very mistaken idea, but I do just warn you that the more we study this, we have as human beings, I think, we have a tendency to oversimplify things. So my suggestion is that when we hear teachings, when we hear something new, especially about emptiness, is that we ask the question, how does this relate to what the Buddha taught about morality? How does this relate to what the Buddha taught about serving others? How does this relate to what the Buddha taught about karma, etc.? So that we keep those connections in our mind and sort of work against this tendency that we have to make things as black and white, as simple as possible. Geshe Michael didn't say that. I just said that. That's my idea, just as someone who's been practicing or attempting to live these teachings for the past 30 years. So karma and emptiness, they go together. Class 6 is about Tonglam. Oh, first Tibetan word. I should get out the Tibetan document. That's not the Tibetan document. Those are my teaching notes. Sorry. So here's another weird thing about me is that I am sharing impaired when it comes to Zoom. Sharing challenged? I don't know. If anyone struggles with sharing in Zoom, it's probably Utpala. There we go. That's better. So say Tonglam. Tonglam. May I see lips move, please? Tonglam. That's good. Thank you so much. So Tonglam means the path of seeing, as Tin put in the chat. Thank you, Tin. And this is, we're going to talk about paths later today. But this is the stage of our practice where we have our first experience of seeing emptiness directly, which is a very critical point in our practice. And so in class 6 of this course, we go into some detail about what that experience is like. Class 7 is how does emptiness relate to getting rid of your mental afflictions, your negative thoughts, which is very important, right? Our negative thoughts, they're so destructive, not only do they harm other people, but they're very distracting. I mean, when we get angry or when we are jealous or, whatever the negative emotion is, we're distracted from serving others, from thinking about others. We get to be like in our heads and we certainly can't meditate when we're horribly angry, So it's very important to learn how it is that emptiness relates to getting rid of our mental afflictions. And who is it that has gotten rid of their mental afflictions? That person is known as an arhat. That person has reached nirvana. They have escaped. They have become free from the cycle of suffering. So that would be a cool place to be. Class 8 is about emptiness and Buddha's paradise. So we'll talk about a little bit about, what is a Buddhist paradise. And I'll share with you something that another teacher told me. And this also relates to emptiness, of course, that there's no Buddha paradise that exists somewhere right now waiting for you to move in. We have to create our Buddha paradise. So that's a fun thing to think about sometimes. What do I want my Buddha paradise to look like? Who's there? What What does it look like? What do we do together? Uh, so that's exciting. And so to get to our Buddha paradise that we create, um, we have to eliminate the obstacles that we have to being fully enlightened. So we'll talk about how emptiness relates to that. The ninth class is about emptiness and the perfection of wisdom. We're going to talk a tiny bit about the perfection of wisdom today, but we'll talk about it more in depth in class 9. And then the last class is about discussing about how even though things, we say it this way now before really understanding, even though things are empty, they still work. And things do matter. It does matter how we act with other people, what we do. And what we're going to come to learn is that it's not even though things are empty, they function. It's because things are empty, they function. So that's exciting. And then we're also going to talk about a poem that I thought, just as sort of like, I don't know, to plant a good seed for us, that we could recite this together. So I'm just going to go through the words. I'm not going to even tell you what they mean right now, but these words are, I don't know, they're like the Diamond Cutter Sutra wrapped up into 4 lines. So let's just start going through what these words are. Say karma, rabrib, marme, tang. So the first line, karma, rabrib, marme, tang. Next line, yuma, low tone S coming up, silwa, chuper, tang. So second line a little more together, yuma, silwa, chuper, tang. I'll make this a little bigger. I see some people squinting. Yuma, silwa, chuper, tang. Milam, high tone mi, milam. Look, dang, trin, tabu. Milam look, dang, trin tabu. Juje, datar, tawar. Ja. Okay, let's do this all together. Ready? And it's fun if everyone turns on their microphone if you're not translating, because well, let me just tell you really quickly. We do this, I meet with other nuns and we recite this poem together, and we each recite it in either our own language or in Tibetan language. So all these different languages are going on, and we all have our microphones open. So it's just this like symphony. The poem becomes a symphony. But for all of us, let's do it in Tibetan, and it will be a symphony anyway. 1, 2,
Má siêu quá bờ trăng ơ thẳng mi rắn nộ nắng chí thang phủ yêu chế đá hóa trả.
Yay! Thank you for playing along. So, like I said, we recite this when the nuns get together. Monks do this as well. When we do our sojong ceremony, we do our confession and rejoicing about how we live our vows. And there are a number of things we recite, and this is one of them. So in the last class, we'll spend some time and talk about this poem. Okay, let's talk about the title of this sutra. I have to make this a little smaller. Oh, there we go. Say Vajra Chedika. Vajra Chedika. Now this is Sanskrit. So this is the title in Sanskrit. And I've just put here what it looks like with the diacritics we use when we're representing the Sanskrit script using Roman characters. So I give that to you in case you are someone who may be studying with Christina Casca and you're studying Sanskrit, that you will be able to pronounce the words more accurately than if we just look at Roman characters. Anyway, Vajra Chedika. Does anyone know what the word Vajra means? Anyone put that in the chat? Or speak it? Diamond, yes. Oh, everybody knows. Yay. Okay, I'm teaching this course to people who could teach me this course. So I'm just sharing this course. You're giving me the great good karma of hearing myself.
Я сейчас приду скоро, хорошо?
Yeah.
Я скоро приду.
Thank you so much. Okay, so Vajra means diamond. Chedika is a word that's made up of two different parts. There's ched, and then the ika is some sort of ending. I am not studying Sanskrit. I want to learn Tibetan first before I learn Sanskrit. Ika means something, but I don't know what. Ched, yep, people are putting it here. Ched means to cut. Maybe ika means like like on the end of an English language, sometimes we put the letters ER. So it would be cutter, one who cuts. Maybe Ika is like that. That's my guess. But so don't write it down. It's just a guess. Okay, so Vajrachedika means diamond cutter. And that's the name of this sutra. And you know what's really interesting is that this phrase, diamond cutter, does not exist anywhere else in the sutra. But that's what it's called. That's what it's titled. And we will become very familiar with why that's so. We'll start to discuss it today. So sutras, most of the time when you hear the word sutra, it means it was taught by an enlightened being. And that is what that means here. This is a sutra. It was spoken by the enlightened being Shakyamuni Buddha. Sutra doesn't always mean sutra, as in spoken by an enlightened being. There's a book called the Vinaya Sutra, which is prominent in the study of Vinaya. Means personal ethics or morality. And the Vinaya Sutra is something that we study as monastics. But it wasn't spoken by an enlightened being. But anyway, so this is a sutra, meaning spoken by an enlightened being, taught by Shakyamuni Buddha in 500 BC. The Tibetan for the title is Dorje Chupa. Say Dorje, Dorje, Chupa, Chupa. For those of you who are listening carefully, there because there's this da suffix, this d at the end, we cut off the sound of the vowel quickly. So it's chupa, chupa, not chupa, chupa. Okay, so you're going to hear, the more you study Tibetan Buddhism or Buddhism in any language, the more you'll hear about dorjes. So does anyone know what dorje means? I know. How many people are here? That's how many people know what this means. Diamond, 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 diamond. Look at you go. Yes, dorje means diamond. If we break down the words, do means stone, and J means Lord. This is part of Je Tsongkhapa's name. We say Lord, man who came from the onion fields. And we add, when we pronounce it, this R sound comes in because of this prefix of the word J. Because you see, this just ends in O, but we say dorje. Because these two words come together, this R prefix, when we put the two words together, we pronounce that R prefix, dorje, dorje. diamond, Lord of stones, King of stones, and the king of all stones is a diamond. Until you think it's a ruby, but it's a diamond, is the king of stones. Chupa, say chupa. So chupa, that means to cut. To cut. If in the last course we had the phrase getsa chupa, if you remember, if you took that course 5, how karma works, that's it's cutting the root of your virtue. So the name of the book, Dorje Chupa, it was spoken by Shakyamuni Buddha in 500 BC. And what's really cool is that at least is what we've found so far. We always discover new things about our past. But so far, it is, something's trying to be taught to you by the sharing impaired. Hold on just a moment. Here we go. It is the first book that was ever printed. First book that our species printed. And this is the cover. This is what the cover looks like. So it was printed in China, and the complete version that we have it's dated, so we know it was printed and published on the 11th of May in 868. And it's been since that time a very important book in China, in Japan, in Mongolia, in different countries in that area. It was first translated into Chinese much earlier than when it was first printed, right? So it was passed along in the Chinese language first in 401 of the current era. And so it wasn't printed until 450 years later. Was when the first printing happened. So it was translated into Chinese by, see, I'm trying to be smooth. I'm not being all that effective, but I'm trying to be smooth. Okay, translated into Chinese by a man called Kumarajiva. And that was in 401, current era. It's very common for people of different cultures to have a copy of this book in their homes. Like the Mongolians have a copy in their homes. So that's about the sutra. So now we'll talk about some commentaries that exist about the sutra. There are 2 Indian commentaries to the sutra. The first one is by Lopen Yiknyan. And that's Master Vasubandhu. And his dates are somewhere around 350 AD. he wrote an explanation of this sutra. And here is the title, which I'm not going to make you say, because it's really long, almost as long as those 4 lines we just read. But he didn't write it in Tibetan anyway. He wrote it in Sanskrit, and it was translated into Tibetan, right? Because he was from India in 350 AD. So at the time, Geshe Michael thinks that it wasn't yet considered Dorje Chupa, the diamond cutter. It was referred to as the perfection of wisdom in 300, meaning there's about 300 verses, which is pretty long for in sutra land. It's a pretty long sutra. And then the other commentary we have is by Kamalashila. Kamalashila. The Tibetans didn't translate his name. That's his name in Sanskrit. He's famous because there's we tell his story of when he came to Tibet, which he did do. He was invited to come to a monastery and debate someone from China, actually, because the king wanted to know, what do we meditate on? What do the Buddhist teachings say we should meditate on? The Chinese person was saying, oh, you empty your mind. You clear your mind of all thoughts. And Master Kamalashila talked about many different types of meditations, which we covered in course 3, if you recall. But there are things like you can review lists, you can do analytical meditation, you can consider questions, consider the teachings and how they relate to your life. And then you can put your mind single-pointedly on an object, whether that object is a visual image or a concept, or in the case of the direct perception of emptiness, place your mind single-pointedly on the absence of something in particular, which we will talk about more. Qiyang mei, that's the phrase that means basically think about nothing. Qiyang mei. So Master Kamalashila won the debate, and so the Chinese teacher was asked to leave the country. Those who had listened to what he had to say were told to no longer meditate on nothing. And Master Kamalashila started sharing, what do you meditate on? Okay. So his commentary on the Diamond Cutter Sutra, again, it's another long title, so we won't go over that here, but it's here for those of you who are studying the language. I know there's a few of you who are. So you have it here, and you can use this, and you can find it in the ALL database. And you can pull out the original input of this commentary. But we're going to have snippets of it in this course. It's called in English. I think I didn't give you the English for this one. It's called in English, the one by Master Vasubandhu. It's called A Detailed Commentary on the 7 topics of the Exalted Lady of Conquest. the work on the perfection of wisdom entitled The Diamond Cutter. Beautiful title. The title of the commentary by Master Kamala Shila in English is similar, but a detailed commentary upon the exalted teaching on the perfection of wisdom entitled The Diamond Cutter. So those are the only two Indian commentaries on this sutra, which is kind of unusual. Usually sutras, if they're talked about, there are many commentaries. So they're both long commentaries, and they're both challenging commentaries. So not too much earlier than when Geshe Michael first taught this course, which was in March of 1995. The Asian Legacy Library was, going around the world searching for ancient texts to scan them and preserve them. And they were in the St. Petersburg Library in Russia. They got permission to be there they were there for, I don't know, years. And they found a commentary by a Tibetan author. And not only just any Tibetan author, but a Tibetan author who is in very high regard, well known for being a master teacher, well loved by monks in the monastery, very skilled at taking complex ideas and presenting them in a way that's easy to understand. It sounds a lot like a certain teacher I know who does the same thing, named Geshe Michael Roach. But anyway, his name is Chini Drakpa Shedrup. Chini Drakpa Shedrup. Those of you who come to any of the Shuangsong Tower or Mixed Nuts translation program, you'll be familiar with this person's name, Chini Lama or Chini Drakpa Shedrup, because we have been translating several of his commentaries. He lived 1675 to 1748. So Chune is the place that he's from, Chone. And Chone is in Amdo. There are were three great regions of Tibet. Kham, Amdo, and Utsang. And he was from Chone is in Amdo, which is in eastern Tibet. They say that people from Utsang are great scholars. People from Kham are great lawyers. And people from Ando are great salesmen. So apparently Chini Lama was a great salesman of the Buddhist teachings. So he wrote a lot of books. He was a prolific author. His collected works are about 12 volumes. And he taught and wrote at Saramate Monastery. That Y should not be on the end. I put it there because in English, there is a word, M-E, that's pronounced me. But you see, this ends with the da suffix. So there's no like yi sound at the end. Like usually if there's a y here at the end, you would like stretch it out a little bit. Saramei. You'd add this little diphthong at the end, Saramei, but it's not that. It's Saramei. Saramei. For those of you studying Tibetan. So he taught and lived at Saramei, which happens to be the monastery that Geshe Michael Roach attended in India. So at the time, Saramei was in Lhasa, which was the capital of Tibet. And there, until 1959, there were about 10,000 monks studying there. So his commentary on the Dhammapada Sutra is the only Tibetan scholar commentary on this sutra. And, you know, you can call it a coincidence or something that his commentary just happened to be located by the Asian Legacy Library just before Geshe Michael is teaching this course. Or maybe something else happened. Maybe it's that we had, especially the people who were in the room in March 1995 in New York City, those people had the amazing karma to have this commentary be discovered in time for their teacher to pass along this sutra to them. I mean, it gives me chills to think about. But this is one of those things that if you ever feel like you have nothing to rejoice about in your own personal practice at the end of the day, think about this, that this group of this group of students in New York had the great good karma to have this text be discovered after being lost for many years in time for their teacher to teach them this sutra. This sutra, which if we understand and bring into our lives, can get us out of the realm of suffering. Amazing. It's incredible. I don't know, brings tears to my eyes. You may think I'm silly, but that's okay. So, as I said, the Indian commentaries are very long and challenging, and Chunni Lama, well known for being succinct and for clarifying or passing along complex teachings in a very easy to understand way. And his book is called Tarlam Sawe Nima. Tarlam Sawe Nima. And in English, that means sunlight on the path to freedom. And that just so happened to be the first book of the Diamond Cutter Classic series that was published by Diamond Cutter Press. So it's available, I believe, in both ebook and in hardcover from Diamond Cutter Press, if it's legal in your country to own that book. Otherwise, you can come to my house and sit in my chair in my living room and read it, because I have a copy. Just get yourself here. Okay. So what that title means, sunlight on the path to freedom. So it's like we're living in the dark. We're living, excuse me, the clouds are are blocking the sun. It's kind of foggy. We can't see very well. That's basically how we live our lives without knowing, without understanding well how it is that things are and how it is that things work. Tarlam means path to freedom. Tar is freedom. Lam is path. Selwa is it means to clarify, but it's like the sun suddenly bursts through the clouds and it clears away all the fog and it clears away all the clouds and everything becomes very clear. The path, the way to freedom from this circle of suffering is clear. And here's the Nima is sun. So the sun breaks through the clouds and it clears the path to freedom. Beautiful. I mean, the other titles were nice. Those Indian commentators had nice titles, but this is kind of poetic, right? Tibetans are very poetic people, tend to be. Okay, perfection of wisdom. In Sanskrit, it's prajna paramita. Say prajna paramita. And this is in I put the Tibetan in here too. Sherab ki paro tu chimpa. Sherab ki paro tu chimpa. So perfection of wisdom is the general name for a collection of teachings about emptiness that the Buddha gave and that are commented on by Indian sages and then Tibetan scholars. So the perfection of wisdom, we're going to talk more about it later. And even though Geshe Michael said very quickly some Tibetan, when I listened to the tape, I could not, it was not a very clear recording and he spoke really quickly and I couldn't find it. I searched and searched, but I couldn't find it. So I'll give you the English. Perfection of wisdom is the knowledge of a person of the greater way with which they perceive emptiness and which is imbued with the wish for enlightenment. So it's the knowledge of a person who's on the Mahayana path, on the greater vehicle path, with which they perceive emptiness and which is imbued with the wish for enlightenment. Okay. We'll talk more about this in future classes. Dundang Dempa. Say Dundang Dempa. Dundang Dempa. Dundam means ultimate, and Dempa means truth. So when you see the phrase ultimate truth, or you hear the phrase ultimate truth, it's referring to emptiness. It's referring to, we haven't said it yet, so I just have to say it. We can't have a course and not say what emptiness is. It's the lack of a self-nature to things. It's that nothing has any nature of being what it is from its own side. That absence, that lack, that emptiness is ultimate truth. Dun dun dun. Now, why does this represent emptiness? We have to talk about the path of seeing. And to talk about the path of seeing, we have to talk about the 5 paths. So there are 5 paths, 5 levels that we go through in our spiritual journey from being in the realm of suffering to being free from the realm of suffering. So the first level is called the path of preparation. And at that level, that's where we, I think someone has their, we're getting the infinity. Okay. The path of preparation is when we gain pure renunciation, when we see, feel in our hearts that good things don't come to us from outside. There's nothing in this world that can bring us happiness, that we create happiness, but it doesn't come from out there into us. Impossible. So that's when we first realize that. So we renounce that, like, I don't know, chocolate ice cream could be inherently good on a hot summer day, or that silk cloth inherently feels good on the skin, you know, or that a flower inherently smells good from its own side. So we renounce those ideas. The second path, sorry, I'll go more quickly. The second path is the path of accumulation. And that's when we really start to understand emptiness intellectually. Once we've gained renunciation, we start to understand emptiness very well intellectually. And then we've reached the second path, and there are 4 levels within that path. And then comes the path of seeing, the big moment in our career, the third path. And the word path means realization. And there are different words that we use for that. So lam is path. Tokpa, when there's a sa suffix, means realization, tokpa. And ngutok also means, it means understanding, but it's understanding in the sense of a realization. These 3, lam, tokpa, ngutok, are dunchik, which means synonyms. Literally one meaning. So lam, tokpa, ngutok, realization, understanding, path, they all mean the same thing. And so the path of seeing happens once in the entire stream of your lifetimes. From beginningless time to complete and total enlightenment, the path of seeing happens once. What it is seeing emptiness directly, experiencing the lack of self-nature to me, not me, directly in meditation. before you have seen emptiness directly, if you're like me, I have a feeling that you guys are not like me. But if you are like me, you're a chiba, you're an infant. That's what they're called. People who have not yet seen emptiness directly are called infants. And here's the Sanskrit word, protagana. But after you have this direct perception of emptiness, you are considered an Arya. You are a realized being. Not yet an enlightened being, but a realized being, meaning you have seen emptiness directly. Also, meaning that you are inexorably on the path to becoming either an arhat, or if you saw emptiness directly with bodhicitta in your heart, that means you're an Arya and you're a bodhisattva inexorably on the path to complete and total enlightenment, all in the same moment. So anyway, that's a big change in status or type of being. And this happens through the influence of the teachings that we receive. We become ripened. So at this path, we've already got renunciation. We already have an understanding of emptiness. We've received very clear and correct teachings on what emptiness means. We go into that deep meditation. Must be a deep state of meditation, which goes on for a very short period of time, maybe 20 minutes. During that period of time, your mind is completely involved with the experience of perceiving emptiness directly. There's no other thought. There's no awareness of anything else. There's no physical or mental awareness other than the experience of the lack of a self nature to me. That's all that's going on. You don't know that you are in meditation, or you don't know who you are. There's none of those kinds of sensations going on. It's just emptiness. So after that 20 minutes or so, then you go into the second half of the path of seeing, and that's called Geshe. And that just means that the wisdom that comes later. And this is where you have realization of it's been translated many times as the Four Noble Truths. But it's really the Four Arya Truths. There are four things realized by someone who has seen emptiness directly. And that is the truth of suffering, the truth of a cause to suffering, the truth of the end of suffering, and the truth of a path to end suffering. Those four truths. There are 16 aspects about that. So it's not just those four things that we learn. But anyway, it's realized. It's like it's known, experienced in one's being, in one's heart. It's not just intellectually understood. I have to skip ahead. I thought I had all this extra time. I must have been blabbing about things I shouldn't have been blabbing about. So we're going to talk now about why do they call it, like, why diamond? Why is diamond in the title? Diamond is in the title because one of the realizations you have in the path of seeing is that apparently, this is what is said, is that you come out of that experience and you look around and there's nothing that represents what you just experienced. The sort of the impact, the profundity of what you just experienced. Nothing on earth, or even your imagination, can compare to it. It's a totally different object. It's ultimate. That's why it's called ultimate truth. So what is the ultimate thing on our planet? Happens to be the closest thing is a diamond. And there are three aspects to this metaphor. First, the diamond, pure diamond is clear. It's transparent. If you had a gazillion billion dollars and you could, I don't know, you probably have to dig up half of Africa to find it. But if you could find a huge diamond and have it cut, it would be completely clear. It could be in front of you and you wouldn't see it. So the diamond represents ultimate truth because it's totally clear, and that emptiness, the lack of self-existence to things, is all around us. We've never seen it. We don't see it, even though we are learning about it. We don't see it. It doesn't appear to our senses that way. So it's around us all the time, and it's totally clear. So diamond is like that. Every object has emptiness, and it's been around with us. It's been around us. So every object, including us, is empty for our whole lives. We've never seen it. The second thing is that a diamond is ultimate in the sense that physically it's the hardest thing in the universe. It can't be scratched by anything other than another diamond. And that's just a physical reality. And nothing can scratch another diamond. You can cut a diamond, but you cut it with another diamond tool, right? That's how you cut a diamond. So it's not real ultimate, but it's close, right? That's the closest thing we have is ultimate. And then thirdly, a diamond is pure. And there's a phrase that they use for this called Dorje Sekma, which is about the concept that if you were to use another diamond and smash a diamond into smithereens, each one of those little slivers would be pure diamond. Each little piece would be equally pure diamond. It's not like one part of the diamond is more pure than another. Like at the core, it's more pure than the outer edge or something like that. It's evenly pure all throughout the stone. You realize that every single perception you've ever had in your life has been mistaken, has been incorrect. Everything we saw, everything we thought, everything we understood was mistaken. And we don't know that until we have the experience of being in the direct perception of emptiness. And as soon as we come out of that direct perception of emptiness, things start appearing to us, or things continue to appear to us in a mistaken way. Things appear to be coming at us, not from us. We understand it intellectually that that is completely and utterly mistaken. So while things appear to be coming from the object to us, we are not fooled. Nothing can faze us. I mean, now, me, if you're anything like me, you think about emptiness as much as possible throughout the day, but there are times when things sneak in and you forget, or I forget, I should say, that things aren't coming at me, they're coming from me. To someone who has seen emptiness directly, things appear and they just are not fooled. They see Gyuma Tabu. They know that things are like an illusion. That's what Gyuma Tabu means. And if you go on to study the Diamond Way teachings, why are they called Diamond Way? You might get a sense. This is talked about a lot, Gyuma Tabu. So anyway, you on the day that we do stop, let's say, on the day that things no longer appear to be coming at us, that's the day that we have removed the seeds for seeing things in a mistaken way. And that's the day we become either an arhat, if we're on the lower track, or a fully enlightened Buddha, if we're on the greater vehicle. That's the fifth path. The fourth path, in between the path of seeing and the path of what they call the fifth path is no more learning. That fourth path is the period of time between seeing emptiness directly and reaching the highest goal, whether that's nirvana or enlightenment. And what happens in that path is we get used to what we saw. We become habituated to what we saw. And that could take lifetimes. It could take 7 lives, or it could take less than a life. It could happen in this life. So the diamond is ultimate truth, but the image of a diamond, the physical diamond, it's only a representation of ultimate truth. It's not ultimate truth. It cannot touch ultimate truth. Unless you are in the direct perception of emptiness, everything that's appearing to you is an illusion. It's like fog on a foggy day. It has that much substance, right? And so ultimate truth, in one sense, it cuts that fog. But more importantly here, though, although the diamond represents ultimate reality, it's completely and utterly insufficient. You might even call it inept. to say that a diamond is ultimate reality. Ultimate reality is so really far beyond what we can imagine. So ultimate reality cuts the diamond. Ultimate reality crushes the metaphor of a diamond. Now, if you had seen ultimate reality directly, you might wear diamonds. You might, as Geshe Michael did, work at a diamond company to remind yourself constantly of ultimate reality. But it's totally insufficient. It's just, it's good as a reminder. That's it. Now, I just want to briefly go over your homework. Oh no, I have to go set the stage. Oh, I'm so slow. I'm sorry. So, setting the stage of the sutra. The Buddha gets up, they live out, they don't have a home or anything like this. They live out in what used to be a forest and in India. And he would go out for his morning sunyom, which means going out for alms. There are hundreds of monks around the Buddha. He's getting ready to go do this, but a monk comes by named Subhuti. And he's well known in the sutras. You'll see his name frequently. You saw his name if you've ever studied the Heart Sutra. He's the one who asks the Bodhisattva Charyavatara, or not Bodhisattva Charyavatara, he asks Avalokiteshvara, excuse me, he asks Chenrezi in Tibetan. He asks Avalokiteshvara a question. But here he comes before the Buddha and asks a question. He kneels down to as a physical gesture of respect. He takes off his shawl and puts it down and kneels down. And he asks a question of the Buddha. And the question is in 3 parts. He probably said something like, "Oh, holy reverend, enlightened one, please, how should a bodhisattva live? How should a bodhisattva practice? How should a bodhisattva think?" So then the rest of this sutra is a conversation between the Buddha and Subhuti about this question in 3 parts. How a bodhisattva lives, how a bodhisattva practices, and how a bodhisattva thinks. The Buddha asks questions of Subhuti, Subhuti asks questions of the Buddha, and they have a back and forth discussion. It's really wonderful. There's 129 questions in this sutra, and we are so fortunate to have Chini Lama to help guide us through how we should think about these questions. Okay, really quickly, if you have to go, you should go. But if you can stay, I just want to talk about your homework, your meditation homework for like 2 minutes. There is it. So in this homework, Geshe Michael asks that we, it's just the next 2 days. So to do this practice called Sunda, which is, we're basically, what it means is we are, Geshe Michael talked about this when he taught The Wheel of Life, the book that Sugang Shi had translated. Sundet means to plant a seed, to arm the bomb. So we want to plant the seed to understand these teachings for this whole course. So in this meditation, you're going to sit down for 15 minutes and you're going to be begging. You're going to be planting a seed by begging the teachers of the lineage to give you a jinla, to give you a blessing so that you can understand. So to do that, there's a book, a tiny book. It's only 7 pages in English, called Yuntin Shurgyuma, which means the source of all my good. Read that first. I'm having it put up on the platform for you. I was hoping we'd have enough time for me to read it so you hear it spoken in your own language. So I deeply apologize for not having the time. But so please, in your meditation, do your preliminaries, read the source of all my good. Even if you don't understand the words, have in your mind that you are thinking about how understanding comes from your teacher, from receiving teachings from your teacher, and that our minds are blessed with this understanding so that we ourselves can practice the teachings and become enlightened. You can imagine in your mind all the teachers that go from your teacher all the way to the Buddha. Think about that chain, that stream of teachers, and beg them all to bless your mind to understand these teachings. Thank you so much for your attention. Again, I apologize for going on too long. And please, we won't do it together because I'm already over, but please dedicate our time here together, being together, sharing teachings, any understandings you've had, dedicate them towards your highest possible goal. Lock them in towards ripening as being fully enlightened. So please do that. Thank you, live translators. I love you. You are amazing. Thank you, ACI, for providing the platform. Thank you, Zoom. Thank you, Internet. And thank you most especially, Geshe Michael Roach, for sharing these teachings. So, okay, have fun in your meditations, thinking about the teachers, and see if you can just feel getting the blessings from this whole lineage of teachers, all the way back to the Buddha. And may it ripen into complete and clear understanding. Okay. Bye.
Thank you so much, Venerable Utpala.
Thank you so much, teacher.
Thank you so much, teacher. Thank you so much, volunteer. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, teacher.
Thank you, teacher.
Thank
Ben
you.
Utpala.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Thank you, teacher.
You.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
See you in a couple days.
You.
Thank you.
teacher.
you.
See you
Bye.
next class.
Thank you, dear Lama.